If you're serious about military history and survival under pressure, subscribe to this channel now, because what follows goes far beyond the tidy ration list you already know. This series exists to preserve hard-earned knowledge that almost vanished with the men who carried it. And today we're stepping into the field kitchens that didn't officially exist. This is about what soldiers actually ate when supply lines broke, when drops missed their mark, and when doctrine collapsed under mud, snow, and fire. Stay with me for the next minute, because the first truth matters. World War II armies did not survive on rations alone. They survived on improvisation. If you understand that, you understand the war at ground level. The popular image of World War II food is neat tins, labelled cans and standardised calories. The reality was that rations were a baseline, not a guarantee. Frontline units frequently operated for days or weeks without full resupply, especially in mobile warfare, partisan zones and encirclements. Soldiers adapted by creating 5-ingredient survival meals, using whatever could be scavenged, traded or stolen without slowing movement or attracting attention. These meals weren't about comfort. They were about staying upright, warm and mentally functional. You know, 5 ingredients mattered more than abundance out there in the field. 5 ingredients was not some sort of romantic number, it was a practical ceiling. Anything more, well, it just increased weight, preparation time, and frankly, exposure. Soldiers needed meals that could be cooked in a helmet, a tin cup, or even directly on heated metal. They prioritized ingredients that delivered fat, salt, or those slow-burning carbohydrates. Meat, believe it or not, was often secondary to just getting enough calories. The guiding principle was simple, really. If it didn't keep you moving tomorrow, it wasn't worth carrying tonight. Among troops from the United States Army operating in Europe, a common improvised meal combined hard bread or crackers, rendered fat, scavenged onions or garlic, water and whatever protein could be secured, often canned meat stripped from damaged supply crates. Crushed together and heated, this produced a dense, salty mash that kept men functional in cold, wet conditions. Modern survivalists can, replicate this principle using hardtack or dense flatbread, shelf-stable fat like ghee, dehydrated onions, water and canned fish. The lesson is not the flavour. The lesson is the ratio. How German field improvisation focused on fat and heat retention. German soldiers, particularly those operating with the Wehrmacht in Eastern Europe, faced extreme cold and unreliable logistics. Improvised meals often centered on potatoes, animal fat, salt, water, and foraged greens or grain. Potatoes were grated or smashed, mixed with fat and pan-fried on scrap metal heated over low flames to avoid detection. This produced a compact warming food that minimized fuel use. The practical takeaway here is thermal efficiency. Cooking methods mattered as much as ingredients. To apply this today, you'd use a starchy base like potatoes or rice, add a fat sauce, and cook flat and fast on minimal heat. Survival is not about gourmet preparation. It's about conserving fuel and time while extracting maximum energy. Why Soviet soldiers relied on boiling and fermentation rather than baking. Red Army soldiers frequently relied on boiling because it allowed flexibility with questionable ingredients. A common 5-component survival soup included grain or flour, water, salt, fat, wild plants, and occasionally horse meat. Boiling, neutralized bitterness and reduced risk. Fermentation, especially with cabbage or beets, allowed preservation without salt abundance. This approach was widespread among units of the Red Army operating deep in contested territory. For modern application, this reinforces the importance of knowing how to make edible broths from mixed sources. Even today, boiling remains the safest universal method when ingredient quality is uncertain. Add fat last to preserve calories. How airborne and commando units built meals around silence and speed. So, paratroopers and commandos, they needed meals that produced minimal smell, light, and noise. Common combinations included dry bread, cheese, fat, alcohol, and sugar. Alcohol doubled as fuel, disinfectant, and, a morale booster. Sugar was often dissolved into water or alcohol for rapid energy. This was not indulgence, it was metabolic strategy. If you're training for modern austere movement, this teaches you to think in dual-use items. What these meals reveal is something deeper than just calories. They're really about mental survival. One overlooked element is psychological resilience. Soldiers wrote again and again about the morale boost they got from a hot, improvised meal made from almost nothing. Control mattered. The act of cooking, it restored a sense of agency. And that's exactly why even the simplest 5-ingredient meals stuck in their memories for decades. In modern preparedness, cooking skills are more than just practical. They're mental tools. Being able to assemble a functional meal from scraps, it really does reduce panic and decision fatigue. Honestly, practice matters more than theory. Now, why does this knowledge still matter, and how do we preserve it? These meals, they were never written into manuals. They survive through memory, letters, and post-war interviews. As those voices fade, so does the understanding that survival is adaptive, not standardized. WWII. Our field meals teach us that simplicity, energy density, and flexibility are what win out when systems fail. If this kind of grounded, field-level history matters to you, go ahead and subscribe now, and share this with someone who thinks rations tell the whole story. This channel exists to keep practical historical knowledge alive, and your support ensures these lessons don't disappear with the last eyewitness.